It's one thing to get cheated on and you move accordingly, you divorce, right? But to also discover that the kids you've been raising are not yours, devastating. Devastating.
Subject: My wife cheated, and the twins aren't even mine. Here's the full story. Hey, True. I never thought I'd be writing into a channel like yours, but after spending hours going down the rabbit hole of men's stories on Reddit and YouTube, I found your channel. Man, it hit me hard. There was one video in particular. I don't even remember the guy's name, but he found out his kids weren't his after catching his wife cheating. I just froze when I watched it. My mouth went dry, and I sat there, replaying everything that had happened to me over the last 2 years. I knew then that I wasn't alone. So here I am. My name's Michael. I'm 36, and I just finalized my divorce a few months ago from my ex-wife, Mel. We were married for almost 6 years, and during that time, I thought we had a decent life. Nothing flashy, just normal. We had twin boys, or at least I thought they were mine. We had a home. I had a stable job in IT, and she worked part-time as a dental assistant. From the outside, we looked like the typical suburban couple trying to make things work. But it was all a lie. One big, drawn-out lie that shattered me. Let me backtrack a bit. I met Mel through mutual friends at a cookout back in 2014. She was outgoing, bubbly, had that infectious laugh that made people want to be around her. I was more reserved, more of an introvert, but somehow we clicked. We dated for about a year and a half before I proposed, and we got married a year after that. Things moved fast, maybe too fast in hindsight. She wanted kids right away, and although I wasn't 100% ready, I figured we'd find our way. That's what everyone said about marriage. You figure it out. About a year into the marriage, she got pregnant. It was twins. We were shocked. We didn't have a family history of twins on either side, but the doctor told us sometimes it just happens. I didn't question it. I was too busy being excited, nervous, terrified. You name it. When the boys were born, I cried like a baby. I cut the cords, held them first, gave them their names. From day one, I was dad. No doubts. But something in the back of my head always nagged at me. I don't know if you'd call it intuition or just paranoia, but little things didn't add up. I brushed them off at first. Weird text messages, sudden coldness, Mel always being too tired or needing space. She got really private with her phone. I mean, she treated it like it held nuclear codes. If I even glanced at it while it lit up, she'd snatch it away like I was invading her soul. I told myself I was overthinking it. She just had twins. Maybe she was dealing with postpartum stuff, but it only got worse. She started going out with the girls more often, saying she needed a break from the kids. I understood that part. Parenting twins isn't easy. But when she started wearing outfits I'd never seen before, buying expensive makeup when we were already tight on money, and disappearing for hours without a good explanation, my gut started screaming. So I did what I'm not proud of. I went through her phone. She was asleep one night and I just had this urge. It was 1 a.m. I got out of bed, grabbed her phone from the charger, and took it into the bathroom. I was shaking. My heart was pounding out of my chest because part of me didn't want to know, but I had to. And sure enough, there it was. Messages to some guy saved under Ashley. He wasn't even slick. Full-blown sexting, nudes, plans to meet up, talk about how much she needed him and how boring her husband, me, had become. I saw receipts from hotel rooms, voice notes she sent him talking about how the twins look more like him every day. I thought I was going to vomit. I sat on the floor of the bathroom staring at that screen until the sun started coming up. Then I got up, walked into the kitchen, and made coffee like a zombie. When she woke up and came in, I handed her the phone and just said, "I know." She tried to deny it at first. She started crying and said I was invading her privacy, said I was paranoid and controlling, gaslighting 101, told me I didn't understand boundaries, and that maybe I was the reason the marriage felt distant. She claimed the messages were just emotional venting. Nothing physical ever happened. I knew that was a lie. Then she pulled the wildest card where it said I was trying to sabotage our marriage because I was jealous she had friends. That's when I snapped and told her I wasn't stupid. I mentioned the hotel receipts. That shut her up quick. But the part that broke me the most, that line about the twins looking like him, I couldn't shake it. It echoed in my head for days. So I did what I had to do. I waited until she was out one weekend and took the boys for dad time. I drove straight to a clinic and did a private paternity test. I swabbed myself and both boys and paid out of pocket. The results came in about a week later. 0% match. I wasn't their father, not biologically at least. My entire identity, everything I had believed, just crumbled. I cried in the car like I hadn't cried since I was a kid. I felt stupid, used, broken. I didn't say anything right away. I called a lawyer instead. I explained everything: the cheating, the emotional manipulation, the paternity results. My lawyer was sympathetic but told me to keep quiet and gather my ducks. We built the case quietly, and when it was ready, I had Mel served at work. I'll never forget that day. She blew up my phone with 20 missed calls and text after text, calling me a deadbeat, a coward, and saying real men don't run from responsibility. She told me everyone, her friends, her family, the community, would hate me, that I was abandoning children who saw me as their father. But you know what? I didn't care. I was done. I didn't owe her a damn thing anymore. I sure as hell didn't owe those kids either. That might sound harsh, but I couldn't keep pretending. I wasn't going to be manipulated into raising someone else's kids because their mother couldn't be loyal. That's not love, that's entrapment. Her texts kept coming in like rapid fire. Some were angry, calling me every name under the sun. Others flipped the script, begging me to come home, asking how I could throw away our family over a mistake. But none of it felt real. Not after everything I had uncovered. I had loved that woman with everything I had, and she gave someone else everything she promised me. The very next day after she was served, she tried to stop me from picking the boys up from daycare. Told the staff I wasn't authorized. I had to show them the birth certificates, which of course had my name on them. And even then, it turned into a whole back and forth. She was trying to use the kids to manipulate me. I wasn't even planning to fight for custody or visitation. I had already told my lawyer that once the divorce was through, I wanted to sever all legal ties. But Mel wanted to hurt me on the way out, and using the boys was her weapon of choice. A few weeks into the legal process, Mel started breaking down. She stopped going to work. I know this because her job contacted me thinking something might have happened to her. I told them I didn't live there anymore and hadn't for weeks. That's when I heard from her mother, out of nowhere, asking if I could be the bigger person and reconsider. She said Mel was having mental health issues and the twins were confused and traumatized, that they needed me. I told her mother flat out, I'm not their father, and I'm not your daughter's emotional punching bag anymore. Cold? Maybe. But I was done being the only one giving a damn while everyone else pretended Mel's choices didn't matter. At one point, Mel actually checked into a hospital for a few days. Her mother took the kids during that time. That's when the court proceedings hit pause. She wasn't mentally stable enough to participate in hearings. Her attorney requested a delay, and honestly, I didn't fight it. I used that time to focus on myself, went to therapy, reconnected with my brother, who I hadn't spoken to in years, and started journaling just to process everything. I didn't want to carry bitterness, even if I had every reason to be bitter. My lawyer warned me that things might get worse before they got better. He was right. Once Mel got out of the hospital, she started showing up at my job, not inside the building, but sitting in the parking lot for hours. One time, she waited until I came out, walked right up to my car, and started yelling at me in front of coworkers. "You're a coward, Michael. You're abandoning our kids. You're not a real man." She kept emphasizing our kids. It was like she refused to accept the truth, or maybe she thought if she repeated the lie enough, it would rewrite reality. One of my coworkers tried to get between us, and she snapped at him. That's when I started documenting everything. My lawyer said to keep records, in case we had to file a restraining order or push back on any defamation. I even started wearing a body cam on certain days, just in case. A few nights later, she showed up at my apartment, banging on my door like a madwoman. I didn't answer. I just called the police. When they arrived, she played the poor mother abandoned by her husband card. She sobbed, saying I left her with 2 children, and now she didn't know how to survive. The officers were polite, but they could tell something wasn't right. After that, her mother took full custody of the twins, at least temporarily. Apparently, Mel wasn't able to take care of them properly. There were rumors that she was drinking too much, not bathing, not feeding them on time. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know. Those boys weren't mine. I had said goodbye to them when I left. I know that sounds cold, but I had to detach or I would have broken completely. You can't heal while dragging the very things that cut you open. The divorce finally moved forward again 3 months after the breakdown. Mel came into court with her lawyer and that same sob story, claimed I had emotionally abused her, claimed I was running away from my duties as a father. She even had some of her friends write statements on her behalf, talking about how great a mom she was, how I was always distant and disengaged. But I came prepared. I had the phone screenshots, the hotel receipts, the paternity test. I even had therapy notes showing the emotional trauma I'd been processing. When the judge saw the DNA results, the whole courtroom went silent. Mel didn't even look at me. She just stared down at her hands like a child being scolded. Her lawyer tried to argue that established parenthood should entitle her to child support, but my lawyer shut that down quick, citing fraud, infidelity, and the fact that I had taken action the moment I learned the truth. The judge ruled in my favor. No custody, no child support, no alimony. Mel lost everything in that courtroom, and honestly, I didn't feel joy. I felt relief. After that, things quieted down. I haven't spoken to Mel since. Her mother tried reaching out one more time, asked if I would just visit the boys once. I ignored the message. It's not that I hated them. I didn't. But they weren't mine, and being around them would just rip open wounds that had finally started to heal. I moved cities shortly after, transferred to another office branch, started fresh in a new apartment, joined a gym, started dating again, slowly. I still have trust issues, but I'm getting there. I've learned that healing isn't a straight line. Some days I feel strong, and other days I remember the little things. Their giggles, their first steps, how one of them used to cling to my leg when he was scared, but none of that erases the betrayal. None of that undoes what Mel did. People think men just bounce back, that we don't feel things deeply. But let me tell you, I cried myself to sleep more nights than I care to admit. I felt worthless. I questioned everything, but I kept going, one day at a time. And that's why your channel matters, man. Because when I found it, I realized I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. I wasn't a deadbeat. I was a man who loved with his whole heart and got played. To any guy listening to this, trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. Don't let love blind you to disrespect. And don't let guilt tie you to someone else's lies. You deserve peace. You deserve honesty. And if someone takes that from you, walk away, even if it means walking away from everything you thought you knew. That's what I did. And even though I lost a lot, I gained something more valuable: clarity, freedom, self-respect. Thank you for giving men like me a place to be heard. I hope my story helps someone out there who feels just as lost as I did. Subject follow-up. She tried to come back after it was all too late. Hey, True, I wasn't expecting to write in again, but after you replied, I honestly got excited. Since then, a few things have happened that I didn't include in the first email, not because I forgot, but because I didn't want to open that door again. But after sitting with it for a while, I think it might help someone out there to hear the rest. This is how things played out after the divorce was finalized, how Mel tried to come back into my life, and how I almost fell for it. Let me start with something unexpected. About 2 months after the divorce was official, I got a text from an unknown number. No name, no context. It just said, "You still think you did the right thing?" I didn't respond. I knew who it was. The next morning, I got another message, this time longer. It said, "You abandoned me when I needed you most. You don't know what it's like to raise two boys alone. They still ask about you, and you're just out there living your life like none of it mattered." I sat there staring at that message, and for a split second, I felt guilt creeping in. The same guilt she always used. That manipulative little hook. I could almost hear her voice saying it. She knew how to twist the knife just right, but I didn't respond. Then came the voicemails. At first they were short, sad. She sounded broken. One of them, I swear, she had been crying, said she was sorry, that she never wanted things to go the way they did, that the man she slept with disappeared the moment he heard about the DNA results, said he ghosted her, that he wanted nothing to do with the kids if they didn't look like him. Her words, not mine. She said she didn't want me back as her husband, but just someone to lean on. I knew that was a lie too. Manipulators always test the water to see how far they can swim. First, they ask for support. Then they want access. Then they want to be back in your life like nothing happened. I blocked the number, but it didn't stop. She emailed me next. She wrote a long, 200-word essay about how broken she was. Said she was going to therapy now, that she finally understood her childhood trauma, that she was working on herself and wanted a second chance to do things the right way, not as a couple, but as co-parents. Let that sink in. After lying about the twins' paternity, calling me a deadbeat, telling people I was crazy, now she wanted to co-parent with kids that weren't even biologically mine. That's when I realized something. She still hadn't accepted the consequences of her actions. She thought if she played the victim long enough, I'd cave. But I wasn't that guy anymore. What's wild is that around the same time, her mother reached out again. She sent a Facebook message this time. She said she knew Mel had messed up, that what she did was unforgivable, but she still believed I had a moral obligation to those boys. She told me they were struggling without a father figure, that the oldest twin started acting out at school, that they kept calling every man they saw daddy. She said they loved you. You raised them. She was right about one thing. I did raise them, but that love came from a lie. I had no biological or legal obligation to them anymore. Staying would have just continued the cycle of dishonesty, confusion, and resentment. Kids deserve stability, not someone who was tricked into fatherhood and stayed out of guilt. I didn't respond to her either. That was 6 months ago. Since then, things have actually improved a lot. I joined a men's support group in my new city. It's small, maybe 8 of us, but it's been a game changer. Most of us are divorced, some cheated on, some falsely accused of things. But we all carry the weight of being treated like we don't matter, like our pain is an afterthought. We meet twice a month. We talk, we vent, we share wins. No one has to pretend. I wish I had joined a group like that sooner. Society teaches men to man up or get over it, but heartbreak is heartbreak. It doesn't care about gender. Around that same time, I started journaling more intentionally. I wrote down every moment I doubted myself, every time I almost responded to her, every day I felt weak. And then I would write what I did instead, how I chose peace, how I walked outside, hit the gym, called my brother, chose me. One journal entry stands out. I wrote it the day after Mel showed up at my new apartment. Yep, she found me. She knocked on my door like she had every right in the world to be there. I don't even know how she got the address. She had the boys with her. She said they wanted to see me, that she just wanted me to say hi and maybe catch up for 5 minutes. I looked at those boys and my chest tightened. They looked so much older already, but all I could think about was the betrayal. The years I spent feeding them, rocking them to sleep, loving them, only to find out they weren't mine. I almost cried, not because I missed them, but because it was unfair. They didn't ask for any of this. I told her calmly, "This isn't the place, Mel. Please leave." She tried to argue, but I stood my ground. I didn't yell, I didn't break. And when she finally walked away, I closed the door and slid down to the floor. That night, I wrote, "She thinks she can guilt me back into the role, but I'm not that man anymore. I love who I was, but I respect who I've become." From that moment on, I knew she couldn't touch me anymore. A few months after that, I started dating someone. Her name's Erin. She's nothing like Mel. She's calm, straightforward, no games. She knows my story. I was up front, and she didn't flinch. Said she appreciated the honesty. We're taking things slow, and it's been healthy. I'm not rushing into anything, but for the first time in years, I feel safe. Safe to trust, safe to laugh, safe to be me. Sometimes I still think about the boys. I wonder what kind of men they'll grow up to be. I wonder if they'll ever find out the truth. If they'll resent Mel for what she did. If they'll look me up one day when they're older. I don't know the answer to any of that. But I do know this: I did my best. And when the truth came out, I didn't run. I faced it. I walked away to protect myself. And that's something I'll never apologize for. So to every man listening, if you're being told you're less than because you chose peace, don't believe the lie. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to walk away from betrayal, even if it wears the face of love. You are not a failure for leaving. You are a survivor. And to Mel, if you ever hear this, I forgive you. Not because you asked for it, not because you deserve it, but because I refuse to let what you did live rent-free in my soul anymore. This is my closure. Thanks again for reading this. I hope someone out there finds their strength too. Michael.